Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic. I'm Amanda.
I'm Allison.
And we're here joined with Joan Miller from Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas. We are so excited to have you here. We are a podcast just in general about everything we wish we knew when we came out of the closet. I want to give a couple of notes before we get started because this episode is going to be extra special. One, if you're not watching on YouTube, I recommend going over there. On YouTube, we have video episodes, and Joan here is going to be talking about Sapphic sex ed and has brought lots of academic educational pieces to show us. There's a whole ass whiteboard in this house right now. There is. So there's going to be notes. I'm sure you have props. You have a big purple bag, and I'm just so curious what Mary Poppins thing you're going to be pulling out of this bag. So if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube. This episode is again Sapphic sex ed, but it is going to be very educational. Even though it's educational, it is not going to be safe for work. So don't listen if you are in a space that is more professional or whatever, wherever you are comfortable listening to things about sex, about anatomy, about pleasure, that's where you should listen to this episode.
So not on speaker, turned up loud in your cubicle.
Yes.
At work.
You know what? Blast it in the Whole Foods. It's going to be great.
Give you the aux.
It's going to be, yes, exactly. Okay. So the reason why we wanted to do this episode is because a lot of us had sex ed that was not helpful at all. A lot of people just talked about STIs and not only that, but heterosexual sex. And it was about the dangers of sex instead of the pleasures of sex.
Totally.
And when a lot of us come out of the closet, sex looks very different. And we're going to do this we have this topic. I don't know if we've told you this, but we're doing a two-parter. One we're doing with you to talk about the anatomy and basically sex ed.
Yeah.
And then we have a sex coach to come on to talk about what do I do now that I'm down here.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to have partnered with you and Planned Parenthood and this whole process to get this episode in the works. So we're really excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
This is going to be really fun.
It's really fun. We've just been yapping at each other for the last 45 minutes before this episode. And so I'm just so excited to have connected and have you on the show.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kick it off.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us who you are, what you're up to, what you're excited about?
Yeah. So I actually just reached my 10-year planiversary. That's
there we go.
So I've been working at Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas for over 10 years now, which is exciting. But I started doing sex education in college. So I've been doing it total for 12 years, which has been really great. It's my dream job. I'm very lucky I get to do it. But I started here because it was important to me to be the person that I needed when I was younger. You know, I grew up in Texas and I got the Texas public school sex ed experience, which is no sex ed, basically.
Yep.
You know?
Heard.
Yeah. So when I went to college, I realized how little I knew about myself and my body. It got me really angry, and I translated that anger into passion, and I got involved. And I just feel extremely grateful that I get to do this. It really is. It feels extremely fulfilling and rewarding, especially now.
I love Planned Parenthood. I've gone to Planned Parenthood for care. I've gone to Planned Parenthood for education. Planned Parenthood is just such a gift to the world, and it is worth defending. Yeah. And so we're so grateful that people like you, specifically serving the queer community, exist. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad you're here serving the queer community.
It takes
a village.
It really
honestly
does. Let's just keep the compliments.
And an hour and a half later, we start the episode. An hour and a half. We're okay, well, let's get going.
Absolutely.
Talk about anything.
Yeah. So you said you started teaching sex ed back in college. Did you apply to Planned Parenthood right out the bat?
I did, actually. I applied to many different positions across the nation at different Planned Parenthood affiliates. But I'm very grateful that I was able to start here in Austin because this is where the work needs to be done, you know? I wanted to be where I was as a kid. Which is great. I'm actually an 8th generation Texan. It's a fun fact. So I really feel like my mom does political advocacy. My Mom's mom was the executive director of a children's shelter. I feel like, you know, it's all in my blood.
Oh my God. Wow. You have like a legacy that we need to like honor. I feel like, yes, like your entire family. Amazing. Thank you for your service.
Hey, no problem. Let's go brackets.
Let's
go brackets.
Yeah. But I think it is really important because a lot of people say like, okay, red states, like queerness doesn't even exist, but it very much does. Queerness exists everywhere.
Yeah.
And even though like we are in Texas, there's such a fight in staying and building where you are, especially in red states.
Yes.
Like we shouldn't write off red state laws just because, oh yeah, they deserve it. They're a red state. Like, no, there are people here that like can't leave or want to stay here because you've been here for 8 generations. Where better a place to like put in the effort, keep your vote important, you know, and get out there and do the work.
Completely. Yeah, and I hate that rhetoric too because it also completely disregards like the history of gerrymandering and people like consistently, even now, especially now, doing everything they can to devalue votes of people of color through gerrymandering. And we could spend a whole hour on that.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. It's a lot. Let's start talking about sex ed.
Heck yeah.
So I wanted to start where a lot of people start, I think, which is a very unwelcome question that I have gotten when I came out. Like, I remember I came out to one of my friends and he was a cis man. He is a cis man. And I did my whole coming out story to him and he looked away and he looked back at me and he goes, well, what is lesbian sex? And I was like, you took my entire sob story and you turned it into something to your own agenda. I was like flabbergasted, but we're no longer friends. But I'm curious from a academic standpoint, right? A lot of what we are told is sex is penetrative and it involves like cis male genitalia and cis female genitalia. And so knowing the lens that queerness is, I'm curious how you define sex.
Yeah, this is such a good question. When I heard that this was something you wanted to talk about, I had to take a second to sit with it because when I am in the classroom, one of the activities that I do is I take like a list of physically intimate activities. So like hugging, kissing, holding hands, vaginal, oral, anal sex, touching underclothes, touching overclothes, and then I make like an arrow, and then on one side it says definitely not a sexual activity, and on this side it says definitely a sexual activity, and then we as a group decide together where the different activities go, and it's always different, which I think is fascinating, and if anything speaks to how important, like when getting into a sexual situation, is self-awareness of what that person wants, right, is, and then also the importance of consent and communication to ask, because we don't know, right? We're going to talk more about sexual scripts later, but you know, we're fed this idea of what sex should look like, but the reality is that like what people find pleasurable in their bodies is going to be physically different because of literally the way people's nerve endings are distributed. And then also like what people are interested in is going to be different. The only way to know is to ask. So, okay. So to answer your question, there isn't one definition. And I actually went back to the Planned Parenthood website to make sure that there wasn't like a Planned Parenthood definition I was missing, but there isn't one. On the website too, it just says like, it means different things to different people. And it's like values based. But I think what's really harmful is when in our sex education that is put forward by institutions like schools or the state, the focus is on reproduction, right? And the steps for reproduction and creating a pregnancy is what people tend to focus on in sex ed classes, because that's easier to sell. Like pleasure is really, really hard to sell, basically, to like be okay for a lot of people to talk about.
Which, how awful, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that stems from purity culture and like colonialism and systemic oppression of like, I mean, it's like patriarchal, right? Because if like women have too much pleasure, like they could uprise, you know, they could rise. And Okay. So I thought a lot about this, and I am by no means an expert. I'm obviously sitting next to one, but I'm curious because when people have asked me this, because like people with good intentions have asked me this, and over the years I have done my best to figure out what, because they'd be like, oh, like what is lesbian sex between two AFAB people, like what is it? And the definition that I have started giving people is sex to me is anything that has the intention of an orgasm. Doesn't mean you achieve one. It doesn't mean that like that's the goal, but the intention is that you're going for an orgasm. So sex to me is like making out really heavily on the couch and like touching each other, you know. Sex to me is, you know, like it's more than just penetration. It doesn't need to involve toys. It doesn't need to involve anything. And so that's my definition. And absolutely. So I mean I'm sure like you said, it changes from person to person, and I just like, I think sex is it's so like expansive and beautiful, and I think defining it by one narrow reproductive penetrative lens is just not serving anybody.
No. Yeah. Well, and it's especially frustrating when like we talk about, like, for example, because the focus in sex ed is on reproduction, clearly we have to talk about like penile ejaculation. Like that is a key foundational part of somebody getting pregnant, right? So we have to talk about that, but then we don't talk about vaginal lubrication, vaginal ejaculation, or orgasms, period, right? Like so there's often assumptions that like people with vaginas can't orgasm or don't orgasm, you know, and that's,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like my education growing up was about a man is going to get you pregnant. Here's the consequences of sleeping with too many people. By like a variety of very uncomfortable games they would have us play. Literal games. Like there was a game where everyone had like a what are those called, like an eyedropper? And then it's like who's secretly passing an STD. And I remember in high school I had my little eyedropper, and I did not view myself as a sexual being. The idea of sex with men has always been horrifying and disgusting to me. And I remember looking at the teacher going, no. I'm not doing anything with this. I'm keeping it to myself, and I'm going to the library. And he looked at me and he went, you have to have sex right now.
Oh my God.
And I literally was like,
horrible.
I was like, how dare you? And then I ended up being the one who caught the STI.
Oh my God.
Rude. Anyways, but like weird games. There was a blanket game they have us play where like everyone had to go sit on a blanket like one at a time. It was horrifying.
I'm so curious. I don't know. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
No.
What was the blanket game?
Okay, so what they did was they put like a really big blanket in front of the class. This was in one of my history classes where they came in and did this. And it started with a member of our class having to come sit on the blanket. And then at random, they would like pull a name out and be like, okay, student number 3, come sit on the blanket. You and the student have officially had sex.
No.
This is like 7 minutes in heaven from hell.
Yes.
Literally.
And the whole class is watching you. Including the teacher. And then before you know, like they're calling up more and more people. And then like there's like a gaggle of us sitting on a blanket, and they're like, all of you have had sex. And, you know, and everyone's like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, there was a handful of us that have now come out later. Who, like, you know, that experience, because it was always boy-girl pairs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Things like that. And just like, but we never ever talked about, we only talked about the female anatomy as it related to menstruation and then reproductive. But I had no idea like AFAB people having an orgasm. I was like, what is that? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Man, that is not trauma-informed care. What you received, like it makes me mad. I feel defensive of young you, that like you were in a situation where teachers were telling you like you were going to metaphorically have sex now. Like anybody with any history of abuse, like that is so triggering. Like that's so awful. It's like so awful.
Yeah, and like looking back now, like and knowing kind of what some of my classmates were actively going through at that time.
Yes.
I was like, you know, as I think back as an adult, I was like, how deeply inappropriate way to teach this.
But I mean, that's like the point of sex education, I feel like, in public schooling, is to scare people out of having sex.
Which like the church did that for me.
Oh yeah, I was in Catholic school.
Easy.
Oh yeah. Easy. But like I went to school to be a teacher, and so I was a substitute teacher for a little bit, and I remember I substituted in a sex ed class. And I didn't like talk during it. I was just kind of there like to be in the background and, you know, just like help, right? That was like, I don't know, the teacher that I was subbing for was like, there is an aide in this class. And I remember at the end, this girl comes up to, we were in like the female class, and this girl comes up to us at the end and goes, hi, so we talked a lot about like all the pain of pregnancy, the pain of menstruation, the pain of having sex, like all of this stuff. And I'm just curious, like, what are the boys, like what pain do the boys experience? And the teacher, I kid you not, looks at her and goes, the boys have the pain of watching you be in pain. And I was like, that's just not fair. Like that's
a terrible answer.
It's a terrible answer. And I mean, that's the kind of sex ed that we get, right? Because for me, I've considered to have had sex with a lot of different like cis men, but I never orgasmed with them. It was never like, it was pleasurable in some ways, but like not having an orgasm. And like, I was like, this is it. This satisfied me, you know? And it, like the focus was on their ejaculation instead of my pleasure. And it's really interesting now. I am doing a lot of work to like retrain my mind around what sex is, to take it from sex is something that you enjoy watching somebody else enjoy, to sex is something that you get to enjoy yourself.
I think in particular what makes me mad about that as a sex educator is also like the idea that the pain around, that there is absolutely going to be pain around penis and vagina sex or penetrative sex of any kind, is also like so frustrating.
It's unfair.
It's unfair, and it's also not necessarily true, you know? Like there's so many steps that people could be taking to prevent that. The idea that bleeding and pain are just givens the first time somebody has penetrative sex is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And is something we should be actively angry about.
Yes.
It sounds like we are.
Yes. We are upset.
Yeah, we are upset.
Just in case to clarify, we're upset.
We're
about
mad.
This.
Yeah.
Yes. This is why we're here.
Yes.
But like, I think with all of that, our next question for you is, why like is Sapphic trans queer sex education important, and like what gaps are you seeing that traditional, more like heteronormative sex ed like not filling?
Well, I think we have already been talking about so many gaps, right? Like the fear-based pieces, right? The showing people very, very advanced, like pictures of very, very advanced sexually transmitted infections, and like just scaring people out of wanting to do any kind of physical intimacy, right? The reality is, and this has been shown statistically over and over, is that, or in studies over and over, is that like the fear is often that comprehensive sex education is going to give people permission to have sex, or give young people are going to be more curious and therefore going to have more sex or riskier sex. But the studies show consistently that when people have access to all of the health information they're entitled to, by which I mean anatomy, birth control, STIs, knowing the genuine real efficacy rates of condom use, etc., like consistently people make their sexual debut, start having sex later in life, and they often tend to use protection more often, and also tend to have fewer partners. Now, I'm not trying to pass a values judgment about like people should have fewer partners. That's absolutely not what I'm saying, right? But if the fear is that more sex education is going to lead to more sex, that's just not true. It's just not true. And the reality is that with fear-based sex education, what we are doing is creating situations where when people get into sexual situations, they're not taking any steps to protect themselves because they believe it doesn't matter, right? If they believe that using a condom doesn't work, if using a barrier method of any kind doesn't work, then why bother, right? And that's going to lead to more unintended outcomes, more infections, more pregnancies, which it's just a failure. It's a failure to everybody.
You're so right. Like if we're taught that getting an STI or getting pregnant is just kind of a random roll of the dice, it's going to happen no matter what, as like a side effect of having sex, like you're so right. There's no like reason to try to stop it if it's like an inevitability of sex. And so, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Or like I feel like the way that I was kind of taught how to view it was pregnancy is a consequence of premarital sex.
Right. Yeah.
But a gift of marital sex. And that is an incredibly confusing message.
Well, and it's not as if somebody has been raised, steeped in the tea of this like fear-based value system. It's not as if like saying I do is gonna flip a switch in somebody's head where they're like, oh, sex is good now. Actually. That's not how it happens. Like there are many I collect vintage sex ed books. There are many books where people are just writing for married couples and being like, this is okay now. It's just it literally serves nobody. And plus, if we think about like there are also studies that show that like in a school environment, for example, every single student benefits from being in an accepting school environment where homophobic teasing is not allowed, like or does not happen. Everybody benefits from that. Like it's like the things that we do to provide more care and inclusion to marginalized communities not only helps those marginalized communities, it helps everybody feel more comfortable being who they are. So I don't know why we're not doing it. Like it's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to your point about like marriage, like when you get married, suddenly sex is good. It's really interesting as I'm seeing my own journey going from, oh, okay, like sex is painful and bad when I was having sex with people that I didn't want to have sex with in the way that I didn't want to have sex with, to now that I'm in like a very safe sexual relationship. Just, I mean, not just you, but like other queer relationships that I've been in have always been very safe. And I still have this voice in my head that's like, this is going to be painful. This is bad. Like you need to perform, like you need to do all of these things, even though it's not expected. Like you're taking too much attention by trying to find pleasure in this. Like you're taking too long, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I really resonate with what you're saying about like feeling like when we normalize sex as being something that hurts, that's uncomfortable, like we are actively supporting people being hurt and being uncomfortable during sex, which is not the ideal at all. You know?
No, and it benefits no one.
It benefits no one.
Like when we're looking at like just the big picture, you know, we can create a kinder, more caring society. If we approach specifically this topic very differently.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into sex ed. Now that we know why we need to be talking about it, like why it's important, let's talk about sex ed.
Okay, so we are thinking about what are kind of the big myths or misunderstandings you're encountering when you're teaching sexual health, specifically around like Sapphic and trans bodies.
Well, so I think we've already kind of touched on some of them, but I think to expound on them, like when we think about the thing that I want to talk to people most about is vaginal ejaculation, because it's fascinating. There are 2 different types and people know nothing about it. And the way that it's represented in sexually explicit media like pornography is sometimes straight up just faked, right? So I just think, I mean, if we want to just dive in.
Let's dive in.
Let's go.
Okay. So
Oh my God, do we have props?
We have props.
Yes. Okay, if you're not watching on YouTube, watch on YouTube now.
This is your moment to go to YouTube.
We're reaching into the Mary Poppins bag.
Okay, unfortunately, it's just papers right now.
That's
but
okay.
We'll be able to get into more exciting things later. I'm going to start with this. Would y'all like your own copy?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So right now, what is being held up is a diagram of a drawing. These are all going to be drawings. There are going to be no pictures today, of a vulva. So what is the vulva? Do y'all know?
It is the outer part of the vagina.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So sometimes people refer to this entire
I have like
part.
test anxiety right now.
I'm also ask you.
I'm like, what's my name? Who am I?
I'm used to asking a lot of questions because I'm used to teaching groups. If you don't want to be asked questions, let me know.
No, go for it.
Yeah, so this is a vulva. So this entire outside is the vulva. If we're being specific, this right here, this opening here, that's the vaginal canal. That's the only part that's technically the vagina, but you know, this is the vulva, the outside. So we also have here the urethra. Y'all know what comes out of the urethra? Pee. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so if we go to the side view, we have this right here. If you want to hold that, I did draw this. Thank you so much for the compliment.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is great. I love this giant red line.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're looking at right here is a side view of somebody facing, like if they're on their back and their legs are this way. So this is the vulva. This is the outside of somebody's genitals. This is the urethral opening where somebody pees from, connected to the urethra, connected to the bladder. This is the vaginal opening, connected to the vaginal canal, connected to the uterus. What happens in the uterus?
Babies.
Yep.
Babies.
Life.
Yep.
I'm killing this exam.
So good.
Okay, so when the brain sends a signal of arousal down to this part of the body, causing arousal, thank you, I've done this job, causing arousal, erectile tissues will fill with blood and become hard or erect. So actually around the urethra, there is something called the urethral sponge. Okay?
I had no idea that was there.
Of course, we're going to be over here. We're learning things.
Okay. I should probably stop saying the things that I don't know right now. You're never going to hear that again.
Urethral sponge is cool because there actually is debate within the sexological community about if it is actually part of the clitoris or not. Oh. But it comes from the same part in the fetus as the prostate. Oh. So we can talk more about what that means later. But anyway, I love anatomy. Anyway, so there are several glands in this area. There are glands around the vaginal opening here. The ones that produce vaginal lubrication are the Bartholin's glands. Bartholin is, I think, the name of the guy that discovered them, whatever.
He's like, what are these?
What are those? When somebody rubs their hands together, they can feel that heat and that friction, right? That friction can potentially tear the really sensitive, thin skin that's inside of the vaginal canal. Vaginal lubrication makes everything all slippery and slidey. That lowers the friction and lowers the risk of tearing.
Tearing is like what sometimes is causing pain.
Exactly.
Oftentimes causing
and bleeding.
Pain.
That's exactly right. And causing bleeding. Yes, exactly. So the Bartholin's glands are what's producing the vaginal lubrication. And then there are also glands that are connected to the urethral sponge. So you'll notice that if you're looking at the visual, you'll notice that there is some space here. I just drew that with space to make it easier to read. But in reality, everything in the body is like smushed. Yeah, very close together. So when the urethral sponge becomes hard or erect, it's going to push down against the vaginal canal. So that's going to happen, I don't know, maybe like an inch or two into the vaginal canal. And sometimes people can feel that if they're if they feel the inside of somebody's vaginal canal like reaching up, they can feel maybe some bumpiness that wasn't there before. Sometimes people call that the G spot. That can feel good to be stimulated. It can feel lousy. Everybody's body is different. The only way to know is to ask.
I mean, that's like breaking the myth of the G-spot, just like right there, because I think there's just like, if you can find it, you've won.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to feel good. It's like the place to find.
So wait, so are you saying that the G-spot and the bumps that you feel right inside, that's just like these bumps on the urethral sponge?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say just.
Oh, okay.
But yes,
part of it is that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, no, it is, all of it is that. But what I'm saying is like, isn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. You said, whoa, give it the respect it deserves. Hype up this sponge, please,
it's
everybody.
Really, it's truly so cool, frankly. Yeah. So when that happens, if there's enough stimulation, sometimes what can happen is a vaginal ejaculation. There are two different kinds, like I already shared. One of them is when the sponge is connected to the Skene's glands. The Skene's glands are on either side of the urethral opening. Sometimes people don't even realize it's happening. They can just look down and see like a wet spot, right? And people assume different things about what that is. But often it's vaginal ejaculation from the urethral sponge. If there is a lot of fluid that's being ejaculated, I'm talking about like what people traditionally think of as squirting. Like if we were to go, if somebody were to go online and search squirting, what they're going to see typically is a lot of fluid, right? What's likely happening in that situation is that some of that fluid is probably coming from the bladder, but
I'm so excited for this answer because I've wondered this for my entire life. Not my entire life, but a long time.
That does not mean that it's pee. I want to make that super, super clear. So even if somebody goes to the bathroom, pees, totally empties their bladder before becoming sexually aroused, when they are sexually aroused, the kidneys get super excited. And we don't have a lot of research as to why that is because there isn't a lot of money in sexological research.
Of course.
Classic. And I wonder why. It's the misogyny.
Yeah.
So when somebody's sexually aroused, the kidneys are going to pump extra fluid into the bladder. So that's going to be a little bit of urine, right? But there's also a little bit of urine in penile ejaculate. So let's just cut the stigma out, right?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about
Everyone
that.
pees a little.
Everybody pees a little. It's all in the same area.
Yeah.
Truly.
It's all smushed together.
It's all smushed together. Yes, exactly. So when somebody is like doing this larger amount of ejaculation, then like maybe there's like more of an arc or more fluid that is coming from the bladder. So if somebody is nervous that they are releasing this fluid and they're not sure if it's pee or ejaculate or something else, what somebody can do is they can like go into a bathtub, for example, have that sexual experience, and then smell, or like even just put a towel down in their usual area, whatever, and they can smell what that fluid is. That fluid typically is going to smell kind of musty or kind of, it's not going to smell like pee. It's going to smell different because it's different stuff, right? Which is cool. So
wow, the more you know.
I know. I'm literally like processing this. That's super cool. Okay. I don't know why I'm still curious about the urethral sponge. So that is Why does it feel good?
Because it's got pleasure sensors in it.
Okay.
Because it is nerve endings in it. So the whole entire clitoris. Sorry, can we flip?
I was made for this job.
This is what you got the degree in teaching for.
Yes,
for this right here.
Yeah. To stand here while somebody else explains it.
So the clitoris is here, of course. It's covered by it's covered by skin, right? It's covered by a clitoral hood. Do y'all know why it's covered by the hood?
Wait, let me guess.
Okay, I have a guess too.
Do it.
3, 2, no, I'm kidding. I feel like it's because if it wasn't a little bit covered, like if you're touching it all the time, if it's rubbing on things all the time, and also to keep it safe from germs and things.
Overstimulation.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Because it's really sensitive. It's a really sensitive part of the body. There are actually more nerve endings in the clitoris than there are in any other part of the body. And that includes people with penises. So it's pretty wild. It's how sensitive it is. But that hood is helping to protect it because it's so sensitive. But the part on the inside is so big. You already know this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this has become way more knowledge in recent years, which I am glad for. So we have here now a diagram of like the clitoris when it is not aroused.
This shook me when I learned this.
Yes.
Because I had no idea. I mean, I don't even remember learning about the clitoris.
No.
Period. I remember learning about like ovaries and things.
Totally.
But that was it. So this like rocked my socks.
Completely, yes. So when somebody is aroused, like the entire area is going to fill with blood and become hard or erect, which is partially why some people think the urethral sponge is part of the clitoris, is because it also is erectile tissue. Again, there's a whole thing about that, but it's substantial. It encompasses the entirety of the vulva. And if somebody were to like visually look at somebody's vulva before and after becoming aroused, it is a substantial difference. And as we speak about like gender expansive individuals, like I really want to highlight that like there's so much more that is similar about our between like vaginal bodies and penile bodies than like we like to recognize. And this is one big part of it. Because can I? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because
we love a passionate educator.
Oh, I love this stuff. You said, come on and talk about what you want to talk about. And I said, bet. I will do that. Okay. When people are in the womb.
Oh my God. I learned about this. Sorry, I had to cut you off, but I was hoping you would talk about this.
Oh, hell yes. Okay, great. Well, then I'm glad we're on the same page here. So when a fetus is being developed, in somebody's uterus, it all starts the same way. This is part of the reason why everybody has nipples, is because nipples develop before the instructions kick in that tell that fetus to develop into a penis body or a vagina body. So it all starts the same way. And then at around 10 weeks of pregnancy, the genitals start to differentiate. Now you'll notice if you're looking at the visuals, they still look very similar, right? You'll see that these are color-coded based off of where they began. Now, if we flip this over, you can see how the same part of the tip of the penis, the same part of the fetus that became the tip of the penis is also the tip of the clitoris. The foreskin is analogous to the hood of the clitoris. The same part of the skin that becomes the scrotum can also become the labia. Now, this is like a huge part of the puzzle. Sometimes people are confused about how people can have intersex bodies, right? Bodies that don't fall neatly into the penis or vagina category. This is a big part of why that is because like instead of these being two completely separate things that develop totally separately and in like ways we can't understand, like the reality is that everybody starts the same way and these tissues are very, very, very similar. So that also is why when somebody is taking testosterone and they have a clitoris, the clitoris can grow in size to become more phallic, to be more like a penis, right? Because it's already in our DNA. It's already in our body's memory to like that part can become phallic.
Wow.
It's like truly amazing. So really, it's not a question about whether or not somebody has a vagina body or a penis body. The question is really like, does somebody have internal or external genitalia? You know? Like,
yeah,
anyway.
That just blew my mind.
So those are my favorite myth busts.
No, I love that because it's really interesting because when I was doing more research around like, this is a complete tangent, like sex in general, right? We've got like genital sex, hormonal sex, like there's so much to sex that other than just what your genitalia is.
Completely.
And so when we think about like intersex bodies, it's like, well, of course of course that's a possibility. Of course it's always been a possibility.
Completely.
Because our genes aren't perfect. They've never been perfect. That's why we evolve. And so, it's just like,
that's why the uniqueness is also so beautiful.
For sure.
You know?
And the binary ways in which we look at life and gender and whatever else is just like really narrow and actually less educated than we think.
Yes. Yeah. And like, I think it's always important when we talk about intersex bodies to recognize like the history of erasure and also the history of like surgeries that are done on oftentimes children under the age of 2 to make their bodies fit more easily, visibly into the penis or vagina category, and how many intersex activists, especially people that interact, shout out, are working to prevent that. And the same law in Texas that made gender affirming care for trans and gender diverse youth in Texas illegal, also had a loophole for children that were born as intersex so they could continue taking whatever gender affirming thing they were decided they should be on by their parents and doctors. So it's like people know, like the politicians know that this is more complicated, but like we're so stuck on this binary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's messed up.
That's super messed
up.
So we've talked about the labia. Oh, do you want to talk about inner versus outer versus majora versus minora?
Thank you. Yes, I would love to. Okay, here. I'm going to actually pull out. So I have a plushie named Victor.
There we go.
Okay, more stuff coming out of the bag.
I'm
Go
so
on
curious.
YouTube.
I was
Go
like,
on
a plushie?
YouTube.
Stop. What? I would love to hold Victor. Oh my God. I was like, a plushie. What are they going to pull out right now? Okay, amazing.
Yeah, it's a vulva plushie. So if you can't see it, it's just a plushie of a vulva, but it's like kind of shaped like a heart. So there are 2 sets of folds of skin that help to protect this really sensitive part of the body. We call those the labia, right? Labia actually comes from the same word as lips. Sometimes that's helpful to people to know. Sometimes it weirds them out. I don't know. But there are 2 sets. So if we're talking scientifically, the scientific name for this outer is labia majora, and the scientific name for the inner is labia minora. But we don't like to use those terms because somebody's inner labia can be longer than their outer labia. And one of the reasons why I really want to bring this up is especially if people have not seen other vulvas before, or have only seen other vulvas online in sexually explicit media. Basically, the only bodies that are being shown in those videos are people who have inner labia that are smaller than their outer labia. And I just want to say that like everybody's body is beautiful. And like just the way our hands are different, just the way our ears are different, our genitals are going to be different too. And that's okay. And that's to be celebrated.
What's crazy is I grew up hearing a lot of like really mean terms.
Yeah.
Like there's like lots of like mean phrases that people use when your inner is like bigger than the outer.
Yes. Yeah.
And how much shame that puts on people whose bodies don't fit what other people are seeing in porn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like all bodies are beautiful.
I mean, I know people who have gotten surgeries. I don't know. It's crazy the pressure to conform to certain beauty standards, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm ASMRing that.
it's disgusting. So then I guess I really wanted to show, I'm going to do this on yours because you're closer.
Okay.
But if we look at, actually, will you hold this?
Yes, I would be an honor.
So then I guess it goes like the clitoris, because we know that it has, what is this? The head, the tip.
Uh-huh.
And then it kind of does this like little upside down Y thing.
Uh-huh.
The clitoris goes from here down into here, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting because like, I'm assuming that explains why like penetrative sex can be really pleasurable for some people because it stimulates these end pieces of the clitoris, right?
Yeah, these are called the bulbs, the end pieces.
The bulbs.
The bulbs.
Cute.
We love it.
Like a flower.
Cool. That's very fascinating.
And if we look at, and I don't actually have a diagram of this, but I could draw it on my fancy whiteboard.
Oh, do it. Oh, bring out the whiteboard, please.
Whiteboard.
So if we're doing like what a clitoris looks like on the inside, it looks like this. So what I'm drawing, if you can't see it, is kind of something that looks kind of like a wishbone, right? So this is the tip of the clitoris. These are the bulbs. Now, if we were to draw what a penis looks like on the inside, including the roots of the penis, what we would have is something kind of like this. Now, what do you notice about that?
Oh, it looks like half of the wishbone.
Yeah, so this like wishbone shape is also the shape that the penis is in.
Wow.
It's just but it's just a different part of it that's bigger.
Well, let's talk pubic hair.
Oh, let's talk pubic hair.
Yeah, since we're talking about the vulva and everything.
Okay, yes. So pubic hair is the hair that grows around the pubic area, right? So the genitals. It can grow in like between the folds of the labia. It can grow up somebody's stomach, down somebody's legs, around somebody's butt, right? All of that is totally normal and fine and good. There isn't a healthier way to keep it. There is, just like we were talking about with like the pressures to have a inner labia that are shorter than outer labia. There's also this pressure to have a shaved vulva or a waxed vulva or whatever, just hairless. And that's, if somebody wants to do that, that is fine. I want to make that super clear, right? It's everybody's decision about what they want to do with their own body. And I want to be clear that that is an expectation that society has put on us. It is not a medical expectation.
When I was taught, it was like, oh, it's like dirty to have a full like bush of pubic hair, and it's cleaner and more hygienic if you shave it.
Yeah, that's just not true.
Yeah. But
and
then it's interesting because then the more that I looked into it, I was like, okay, well, obviously there's a evolutionary evolutionary purpose of having pubic hair, which is that it protects it. So is it better then to like have it? But you're saying it's not. There's no like real reason either way. It's just whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So if we were to, there's like pros and cons of each, right? Like, so for example, in the 80s, it was very, very common for people to not do anything to their pubic hair, right? And now 50, 40 years, 45 years.
Oh my God.
Certain amount of time later.
Talk about the
a couple years later.
That is not the case anymore. Right now, it's like more assumed that everybody is going to remove their pubic hair entirely.
And then they're going to buy the Kim Kardashian Merkin.
Stop. Literally. Oh my God.
I can't believe it.
Well, I mean, how much are beauty standards just what's hard to achieve? You know what I mean? It's just like what people don't have.
Okay, so there really is no like medically necessary or right way to have your pubic hair.
Correct, yeah. And people are often nervous, especially when they go to the gynecologist, right? About like, well, I don't want to make my doctor uncomfortable. Like, do I have to shave for the first time to do that? And the answer is absolutely no. So, what's helpful, y'all already kind of mentioned this, right? What's helpful about pubic hair is like, we have it for the same reason that people have eyelashes. It's to catch debris, right? Protect this really sensitive part of the body. It's an opening to the body, right? It can also like help prevent like some friction during sex. I mean, it depends on the kinds of sex that somebody is having, right? But sometimes it can help prevent like some chafing during sex because of that, extra layer basically. People just have different opinions. Sometimes people like to just trim it or cut it. Sometimes that makes the hair feel coarser. One of the reasons why that is because when hair is allowed to grow out, like it starts to taper at the end, right? So it feels finer. But when somebody cuts it, they cut across the grain. And so it's like, it feels like it's thicker, right? Because it's blunter.
That's so interesting.
Wow.
But that's not actually what's happening. It's not actually thicker.
Interesting.
We're just feeling a different part of the
Because there's like the myth of if you cut your hair, it grows back thicker.
Yes.
Right. And it feels that way. It can feel that way, but that's not how it is forever.
Okay,
right?
I learned something. Okay. I mean, this is the first time I've learned something. I've learned something new. I love it. Okay.
So, and I like trimming is such a good way of, also if people want to trim, again, they don't have to, but trimming is also nicer than shaving or waxing because it way less like razor burn, way less opportunity for ingrown hairs. Not zero, but way less opportunity for that. So just something to consider that like, it also doesn't have to be all or nothing, We're trying to fight back against binaries.
Yeah, that's true. Break the binaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. We do have some questions on like the cervix and like the hymen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't actually have a diagram of the hymen because a lot of people aren't born with a hymen. If somebody is born with a hymen, what it is a like a thin membrane, right? Sits over the, like right on the inside of the vaginal canal typically. That helps to protect that opening to the body when somebody's very young, right?
Wait, not everyone has one?
Not everybody is born with one.
Okay,
yeah.
I was told everyone does, most of the reason why they discourage women from being active is because it will break you prematurely before sex.
Yeah, and that is possible that it could be broken through activity.
Okay.
Like riding a horse, riding a bike, falling weird, right?
Yeah.
Like all of that can cause it. Putting in a tampon. That's also part of the reason why people are told not to put in tampons, is because that can also break a hymen. I'm gonna say something controversial and say who cares. I'm gonna say who cares. The thing about the hymen. So a lot of people are born with it, and then sometimes also the hymen. Somebody can be born with a hymen that's not like fully intact, that has holes in it, and the hymen can be stretchy. So if somebody does have a hole in their hymen, that hole can be stretched over time, and that means that the hymen never has to be broken, ever. Right.
Oh.
So when people talk about, like, a lot of people, sometimes people don't realize this, the term like pop their cherry, right?
Yeah.
What that's referring to is like having the hymen be broken and there be bleeding. That's what the cherry is, right? The redness being the blood. But the reality is that like that blood is not something that has to happen the first time somebody has penetrative sex, because maybe they don't have a hymen, maybe they can stretch the opening of the opening in their hymen that they already have, and also if there has been enough vaginal lubrication, if there's been enough arousal in the area that allows for the vagina to literally tint and grow in size in the back, like, then it hugely lowers the risk of there being any tears. So bleeding is not necessary.
I feel like I'm having flashbacks to my education.
Yeah.
Because I remember that, like, they were like, yep, the first time you have sex, you will absolutely bleed.
It will be very painful.
Because of the hymen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is because it's assumed that
yeah.
you have one,
yeah.
and that it's going to break and you're going to bleed.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. I want to be clear that it's okay if somebody does experience that. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that somebody's done something wrong. I'm just like, want to break down the myth that it always has to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because like the ultimatums of things can make things even scarier, you know?
Yes.
This is going to hurt you no
Yes.
matter what.
Yes.
And just the way, because I was taught about the hymen, not because I was in Catholic school, and so of course, like, the hymen was taught to you not as a protected, like, it's a film in your vagina that protects those sensitive areas from a young age. It's taught to you as, this is a biological, like, your body is saying that you need to be pure, and if you break it, that's your body, like, it's disappointing because your body was made to be pure because it has a hymen.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, everything is surrounded by reproductive, penetrative, penis involving sex.
Purity culture.
Yes.
And that's really interesting. I love that you said that, because it's like reframing a lot of things. Because I genuinely, when I grew up, I was like, oh yeah, my body, like, I have a hymen, that means I'm supposed to be pure. My body wants me to be pure, and this is the way that they're proving that.
Yeah, and that also makes me mad.
Yes.
I keep everything y'all tell me about what y'all were taught. I just want to go back in time and give y'all a hug, because like that's wild. And then also, of course, the implication that because a penis body doesn't have that seal, then like it's this, the penis body doesn't have to be.
It can do whatever it wants.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
That's actually part of its masculinity.
Yes.
Blech, gross, barf.
Blech,
I hate
gross,
it.
barf,
Yep.
Okay, well, let's talk about the cervix. Like, what is it?
So, what we're looking at is a side view of the inside of somebody's body with a vagina. The cervix is this part right here that's at the back of the vagina. So it is the end of the uterus. It's also the end of the vaginal canal. It kind of feels like a nose does. Just a fun fact. It has a hole in it called the os. That hole is where, like, sperm would travel up to try and find an egg in the fallopian tube. It's also where period blood would travel out. Have y'all ever like had a relative that's given birth, or actually I don't know if any of y'all have given birth, or like, have you seen like a medical drama where somebody's been like, oh, they're 6 centimeters dilated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're referring to, right? Is the hole in the cervix getting bigger? Because that it needs to get bigger for a baby to come out.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I wanted to talk about the cervix is because sometimes it can hurt to have the cervix touched, or like if somebody's having penetrative sex that it's hitting the back of the cervix, sometimes that can be painful. But like I mentioned earlier, the vaginal canal tents, T-E-N-T-S, when somebody is aroused, which means this back end of it is going to pull up, actually, which creates a little bit more room in the vaginal canal to allow for penetration.
Oh, interesting.
Again, that doesn't mean that the body is built for penetration. It's just a fun feature of the area. So when it comes to this area, there actually are nerve endings throughout the vaginal canal. There's one in the back here that can feel good sometimes to be stimulated, and sometimes it isn't. So
wow.
Yeah.
Do you know why it hurts to be touched in general?
The cervix? Sometimes it doesn't hurt to be touched. Sometimes it's just sometimes like if somebody is, I'm thinking specifically about like penetrative sex, where it's being like
bumped.
Bonked. Yeah, bonked is a great word for it. Yeah, bonked.
I love that.
Yeah.
Bonked. Yeah,
It's
great,
just
good job.
it's just sensitive. You know what I mean? It's just a sensitive part of the body. And sometimes people, you know, feels good and sometimes it doesn't.
It makes me also, I feel like it's so good to learn this, because I think sometimes with this lack of education, we can tell ourselves that we're broken if certain sex is hurting in a certain way. And it's not that you're broken, it's just maybe you have a sensitive cervix.
Totally.
You know, or maybe
Yes.
you're not as aroused as like you need to be.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so it's not that you're broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have heard lore of like a cervix orgasm. Is that a thing?
Oh, okay. I'm not an expert on this. I wish I was more of an expert on this specifically. What I do know is that there can be different types of orgasms. I think that there's some debate within the sexological community about how exactly you would categorize different kinds of orgasms, particularly because Freud was such a misogynist when he talked about different kinds of orgasms.
Yeah, he did not like women.
No.
Yeah.
So it is possible there are like different kind of nerve endings that could potentially be stimulated to cause potentially different kinds of sensations when people have an orgasmic experience. But that's pretty much all I can tell you for sure.
I think we are good to move away from anatomy and talk about consent.
Oh, okay, great. Let's do it.
So we'd love to hear, like, you mentioned earlier, like sex scripts and things like that, and what all that even means.
Yeah. So actually, question for y'all: what tone would you say that like sex scenes in TV, movies, books, songs, like what would you say the tone of those sexual situations are?
Oh, they are intense and like sporadic and like like theatrically passionate.
Yeah.
No communication. And I think it's like I've read your mind.
Yes.
And we're like in it.
Like I love you so much that you don't have to tell me what makes you feel good, because I know.
Yes.
Intuitively.
I feel like that's so much also of like the fantasy smut books. Like, like we're trying to read through exactly. Yeah, he knew immediately by looking into my eyes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the tone.
Looking into my cervix. He knew.
As Zayden peered into my...
But I mean, even
not Zayden.
Hilarious. No, but even like the Sapphic sex books that I've read, it's like it's always like then I've pressed into her moist center because I literally, somebody said that, and it was like I knew exactly what to do. Yeah. And she just caved to me, and I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like sex that I know.
Yeah. It's a fantasy. So yeah, the tone is often just like you were saying, right? Serious. There's a mood, right? And and that mood can be broken, right? And I think oftentimes people are nervous about talking about protection, talking about history of STIs, asking for something different because they're worried about breaking the mood. But if the sexual situation is so tenuous that asking for anything is going to break it and make the other person want to stop completely, I might argue that it could be not as healthy as a situation where people can talk about it. Because are people ready to have sex if they can't talk about sex?
Are they ready to have sex? Maybe no, but do they have sex? Yes.
Yes.
I was like, let's get real here.
Let's get real.
Yeah.
Well, and like the script that, I mean, we've already talked about this, right? The script that we have been taught is like, especially in the sex ed classes that we took, is like this is of course between two cis straight people, right? We got a dude and a lady. There's kissing. There's oral sex on the person with the penis. There's penis and vagina sex. The person with the penis ejaculates. Maybe the person with the vagina has a fun time, has an orgasm, and then that's it. Right?
Or she's just fulfilled by the man getting off. Like, yeah.
But the reality is like, sex can be so much more than that. It can, or like, not to say that it's like that isn't the only way that sex can look. Sex is like talking, and that there are many different tones it could take on, many different moods it can have, right? It can be serious and intimate. That's totally valid. But then also fun, silly, goofy, or even going between being silly and being like like intimate, right? All of those things can coexist. I just think people really want to put themselves in a box because they want to make sure that they're having the right sex. And that's not the way it has to go. But the only way, even if like having an orgasm is like the goal of somebody's sexual experience, which it 100% doesn't have to be, as we've already talked about, like if it is the goal, the only way to know how to get there is by talking to the partner about what they like. Because again, everybody's body is literally physically different. So what feels good to one person is going to feel terrible to another person.
Yeah.
And the only way to know for sure is to ask.
And I feel like as we're like talking in the context of like sapphic sex, especially for people without the education around there's that, I want to say like not even like a set of expectation on how sex is meant to be when it's heterosexual and cisgendered that literally like doesn't apply to sapphic sex, which can make sapphic sex seem a little intimidating.
Sure.
Because then you're like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right. If like,
Totally.
you know, and I think there can be that anxiety around that.
Completely.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, because like when I went from going to strictly heterosexual sex to strictly like sapphic sex that always involved a vulva, I was like, do I need to be performing in the same way that I was performing when I was having like heterosexual straight cis sex, right? And it's really interesting because there is like lesbian porn out there, and I did when I first came out, I watched it and I was like, this doesn't quite seem like it either. I feel like what I had to do when I first came out was like really break down what sex was to me and what I liked, because I had never asked no one had ever asked me, what do you like?
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, well, how do I express what I like when I am uncomfortable talking about it, because I've only had to perform, which meant I kind of went numb whenever I had sex.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Every single time I have sex, it's different, right? Like, speaking only for my experience, it's like, okay, well, sometimes I like this mood, sometimes I like this mood, sometimes this, what you did last time to me isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
So it's like, even the script around, you need to ask what works for someone, it's like you need to ask them every time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And ask yourself too.
Yes.
I think it's okay to be like, what do I want today?
Yes.
What I want right now. And also knowing that like what you want in that moment can also change in that moment.
Yes.
Like sometimes like you're like, we're going to start off, it's going to be intense and I want these things. And then you're like, actually, can we just be Muppets for like 4 seconds? You know?
Not Muppets.
You know, but like just knowing that, I think that there's a flexibility and a fluidity in the moments and in what your partner wants and what you want, and that's like okay. It doesn't have to be like that movie.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, sorry. Can we all take a moment to appreciate this one video that I hope we've all seen? I know you have seen it because I've sent it to you like 50 times. But it's this Sapphic couple, and one of them is tied to the bed, and then the other like
I love this
couple
video.
comes in and is like, ooh, like wearing full like Ebenezer
Scrooge
Scrooge outfits. And then the person on the bed was like, they were like, oh no, dude, were you thinking that it was, what was it, like Christmas night or like Scrooge night? And they're like, no, I thought it was like sexy tie me up to the bed night. And they're like, oh no, I thought it was this. And they're like, it's okay, no, we can do Christmas, you go away. And so the person leaves the room and the person tied up goes, Christmas, I've been a bad Christmas. It's the greatest video. I think about it probably like once a week.
That's so funny.
But
It's
I feel
amazing.
like it's a perfect example of like breaking that script and being like, oh, not what I expected, changing tones, but we're still gonna have like a really fun time. We're gonna be able to connect. And like that, like I feel like it's like improv, like that can like really work.
Completely.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, and I also want to like recognize how difficult it is for somebody to know what they want for a lot of the reasons we've already been talking about, right? With like the terrible sex ed, right? Like the shame around it. And that's part of the reason why those fantasy situations where the other person just knows automatically what's going to make like the other person feel good. Like part of the reason why that's such an enticing fantasy is because in that situation, the person receiving the pleasure doesn't have to know like what is going to make them feel good, because it is scary not only to know but also to ask for it. And that's true not just in a sexual situation, that's true in life, especially for people who have been like socialized and raised as women.
Shout out to the people pleasers.
Shout out.
It's hard.
It's really hard, especially the way that we live our life online sometimes too. You know,
I mean, there is like a certain narrative of like you need to be disconnected from your body, you know, like a lot of people, like myself included for a while, was like, I don't even know if something feels good or not, because I have been traumatized into being numb during any kind of sexual intercourse because it hurts. And if I'm not numb, then I have to like be present and recognize that it does hurt, or, you know, or whatever, because my needs have been disregarded and ignored for so long. And if you are a listener who has had that experience like me, I am so sorry. And it's fucking awful and unfair. And it like how I think the lens that I look at it now is like how beautiful that now I get to have sex that doesn't traumatize me.
Yes.
And I get to break down, even though sometimes I do get triggered, that I get to break down and communicate and recognize both what I want in myself and with my partner that's going to honor that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We talked a lot about the script, but like why is, especially in Sapphic queer and even heterosexual relationships and sex, why is it so important to break that script?
Ooh, because it's important to get what somebody really wants. Because it's important for somebody to know what they really want, ask for it, and to get it. Like the experience of, and I think you've already spoken to this, frankly, and like and with the vulnerability that you've shared with how meaningful it is to be able to be present and engaged and to accept something deeply and let that bloom. Like I think and that's not only in sexual situations, I think that's true in life in general. The only way to know what somebody really wants is to be able to step outside of the expectations and think through that. And I can't emphasize enough how hard that is. Like, and that anybody who is struggling to do that, it makes sense. Like I think many people, if not everybody, is struggling to do that. And frankly, like therapy was a huge way that I know many people broke outside of that. You know, it just takes time.
Yeah. I think there is like a reclaiming of sex and of intimacy from the movies, which just show something for entertainment, and reclaiming sex and intimacy for you and your pleasure and your body and your experience is like incredibly powerful.
Yes.
And we have an episode with a dating coach.
Oh, fun.
And she talks about this myth of like sparks.
Yes.
And that she has this joke where she's like, it's probably just indigestion. Right. And I feel like our media really leans on that. It leans on the idea of chemistry and on sparks because it's storytelling. At the end of the day, that's what it is at its core. It's meant to elicit a certain feeling. It's meant to move along a plot and to intrigue your viewer. Yeah. Where it's almost like what breaking the script, I think, also does is it encourages you to relook at what romance is and what sparks are. Yeah. Because I would much rather be in a non-theatrical sexual situation that is communicative, consentful, and is able to pivot and be fluid rather than one that isn't but has all the theatrics that like maybe this random movie has.
And then you can be super present and theatrical at the same time.
Yes,
because you need to be completely present and communicative with your partner or partners before you can be theatrical.
Yeah, because then you can get there in a way that everyone feels safe, they feel heard, you know what they want. But like it breaks that myth of the idea that it's instantaneous without communication, and that's what romance has to be. You just have to know. And I think that's a big thing about this podcast. It's a mission of ours, is that you don't have to just know. Coming out all of a sudden, like you said, isn't a switch that clicks and all of a sudden you have all the knowledge. Right. In fact, it's often the opposite, because Sapphic and trans folks and our queer folks are faced with huge educational gaps. And so I just think it's constantly restructuring that and letting you know that it's okay not to know and it's okay to ask, you know?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have this really cool acronym that I have been excited to hear about.
Well, it's not mine. It's Planned Parenthood.
Okay. Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas and Planned Parenthood in general has an acronym. I would love to...
I want to be clear that so the acronym is FRIES, and I want to be clear that we're not making light of the importance of consent by putting it in the context of FRIES. It's just an acronym to help us remember. F stands for freely given. So if somebody can't say no to the sexual behavior, then is the yes like a real yes?
So that would be like if they are like really intoxicated.
Yes.
Is that an example of that?
Absolutely. Or if somebody's feeling pressured for any other reason. R is for reversible. So somebody can say yes to kissing and then no to sex, or somebody can say yes to sex and then be like, actually, I don't really want to do this. And then everybody should stop, you know?
Yeah.
I is for informed. So for example, people should know what is going to happen to their body before it happens. One place where I see this happen, where I see this come up often is like in the idea of stealthing. Have y'all heard of stealthing?
No.
great. It's a terrible thing. It's illegal. It's where
it's illegal.
It's where like somebody with a penis who has agreed to use a condom with the other person they're having penetrative sex with stealthily removes their condom.
I've heard of it. I didn't know it was called stealthing, and that to me is despicable.
Yeah,
that's awful.
Yeah, so that would be an example of not having informed consent. E is for enthusiastic, right? The idea being that people are really want what's about to happen. Yeah. And then S is for specific. So somebody can say yes to oral sex, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily saying yes to vaginal sex. That it's a continuous process. So that's just like some of the key tenets of it. But what I really want to bring up too as a very common consent myth is this idea that somebody's body can consent for them. And this is also really common in the fantasy erotica that people read. There's something called arousal discordance. It's where somebody's body can be reacting to sexual stimuli or even just stimuli in the environment that's not necessarily sexual in a way that they don't want their brain to be responding in. So for example, like if somebody is in a situation where they're making out with somebody and they are experiencing an erection or vaginal lubrication or whatever, that doesn't mean that person wants to then go to like touching under clothes.
Say it again for the people in the back, honestly.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. Because what happens is the body can just react to stimuli, right? And become aroused. That does not mean that the person wants it, right? Or wants it to be happening. So somebody's body can't consent for them and somebody's eyes can't consent for them.
And you hear that in songs like all the time.
All the time.
I saw it in her eyes and I'm like, you need to hear it from her.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I don't care what her eyes are saying.
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
And one reason why we define consent at Planned Parenthood as being something like explicit and oftentimes like most of the time verbal is because it's important to know that the other person is not in freeze. So like if somebody's brain is in a new situation, one way they might respond to that is through fight or flight, right? But that's the one that those are the two that people are familiar with, but those are not the only two reactions the brain can have. One other one is freeze. And if their brain is in freeze, that means that they're kind of deer in the headlights, like maybe dissociated, like unable to like fully react to what's happening in the moment, which completely makes sense if somebody's in a new sexual situation, right? That's very common. So it's important to make sure the other person's not in freeze and to make sure they're not just going along to get along, right? To check in and make sure that they're present and engaged and enthusiastic.
Can you maybe give us some like sentence starters for people to help check in with their partners?
Yeah, I would love to give sentence starters, actually. Yeah. Right? The sentence starters can be as easy as, would you want to blank? Yeah. Is it okay if I take your shirt off? Like, is it okay if I blank? Like, can I tell you what I'm fantasizing about? Like, it does not have to be... Like, I think sometimes people are really worried about saying something that's not sexy enough or whatever. And again, I think that goes back to the myth of the mood that can be broken when, like, if the goal, I mean, people have many, many, many different goals of sex. If one of the goals is to be in connection with the other person, it requires vulnerability and openness to have potentially like a briefly awkward moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's okay, but it's also really scary.
What about saying no?
Yes, let's talk about that. Yeah. As Oprah reminds us, everybody has the right to say no at any time. And
Come on,
Oprah. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
So nobody ever has to explain why they want to stop or why they want to pause. I want to make that super clear. And especially for people who have been socialized as women, raised as women, and are people pleasers, right? It can be really scary to set that firm boundary. And so sometimes it can be helpful to have different ways to say it. So sometimes people might just say like, hey, let's take a break. Or like, I'd like to wait to get to know you better before jumping into this. Or this isn't really my thing. Why don't we keep kissing instead? If that person actually does want to keep kissing, you know, obviously. Or I like leaving something to the imagination or anything like that, right? Like there are many different options. Do y'all have any other ones that y'all can think of?
Honestly, I just say no.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's more than fine.
But I mean, of course, that is a privilege of being comfortable and feeling safe with somebody, right? Mm-hmm. But I think like you should be in a relationship. An indicator of a safe relationship, a safe sexual like relationship, is that you can just without explanation say, no, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And then like knowing that that's going to be honored.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like I'll get a little in my head about hurting the other person's feelings.
Yeah.
And so I've tried not to do this, but I'll often be like, I'm sorry. I feel like you don't need to apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I feel like there's something like wired in my brain to need to apologize first.
And then I go, stop apologizing.
Yeah. Like, don't apologize. Yeah. But like another one that I've used in the past is, hey, thank you for wanting to do this. I'm just not really there yet.
Oh,
or
that's lovely.
Hey, like I'll be like, oh, hey, like I love what's happening and I'm really glad to be here, but I think I just need this right now.
Yeah.
It kind of helps.
Yeah.
And then for some reason it like satiates the part of my brain. Maybe it's trauma that they're going to get mad at me.
But it is scary. You know? It's scary to say no.
Yeah.
It's terrifying to say no, especially if you were raised as a woman, because that shit is dangerous.
Can I tell you about a theater game that helped me with the word no?
Oh my God, please.
I'm like, I think friends should just play this together. You literally, so it's from Intimacy Choreographers.
Cool.
And it's to help you practice saying no. And you literally get in a circle. And it could be passing a ball, or it could be like changing places in the circle, and you literally just make eye contact. You say the person's name, and if they say yes, you pass the ball or switch spots, and if they say no, you stay and you ask somebody else.
That's cool.
And it's to get you used to hearing the word no and to having your body letting your body develop a neutral response to the word no.
That is cool.
And pivoting. And we play it a lot to like get ready for that, like, you know, and just kind of like normalize the word no.
Yes.
And it like helped a lot, hearing no and not being like, oh, I'm a bad person, I did something, or, you know, people having another type of response to that.
Yes.
And I'm like, I think everybody just stand in a circle and say no. Or like there's that one TikTok creator, and that's what she does. She goes out to specifically ask for things to get told no.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's crazy because oftentimes when you go out and you specific, like, she'll go to coffee shops and she'll be like, can I have this thing for free? And they'll be like, no. But sometimes they say yes, which is crazy.
I think what we're coming to here that I really want to highlight and like set on the table is the idea that like not only do we need to work on saying no, but also accepting a no gracefully. Like the emotions that somebody has when they're being told no, like, can be rejection, embarrassment, fear, and all of that initial emotional response. That's not necessarily something somebody can control, but what they can control is how they react to that and respond to that emotion. So like it takes a lot of work in therapy sometimes. Shout out group therapy in particular is really good for rejection and fear of rejection, is working on knowing how to self-soothe, right? Knowing when to step away, take a walk, write in a journal, talk to a different friend, right? Never using the feelings of fear and embarrassment to try and pressure the other person into saying yes. That's also part of the work.
I mean, I think there is like a check-in with yourself, right? Like anytime you ask for anything, check in with yourself before to make sure you're in a position to accept a no. Yeah. And if you're not, don't initiate in the first place.
Well, because then it's not a real question.
Yeah, it's not a question at all.
If you are not open to any answer,
besides yes,
then it's not a question. It's more of a demand or an ask.
Yeah, like
it's a request. Yeah.
Well, and I also want to highlight, like, so many of the things that we're talking about here as helpful in sexual situations are like true in life in general.
Yes.
So like things in our everyday life that we can do to honor ourselves more, check in with ourselves more, ask for what we need more, like that all helps. That helps in all facets. Right. So people can, there's just so many this is a way to frame it is not like, oh, it's so scary, it's so big. You have so many opportunities to practice these things. And isn't that beautiful and amazing?
Yeah. Yes. So many opportunities and so many benefits from that practice.
Yes.
Like, it is overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a great reframe.
Okay. The last thing we want to talk about is sex toys.
Yay. And sex safety.
But the first question is sex toys.
Yeah.
They can be a big part of our lives, being Sapphic people. And I am curious. We are curious. We are all curious.
The collective we.
What should we know about safe materials versus toxic ones? This industry isn't regulated. And so, like, where do we get our sex toys? Like, how do we make sure that when we're using sex toys, it is in a way that is an aid instead of a, like, hindrance or expectation or performance?
Yeah. Yeah, I really, really, really want to highlight what you're saying about the industry is not regulated. No politician wants to be known as a sex toy politician, especially right now. So it's not going to change. So whenever a company puts out a product and they put on that product novelty use only, what they are doing is distancing themselves entirely from any kind of health impact that product is going to have on somebody's body.
So if you use something and it causes harm, it like distance them from a lawsuit?
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, this is for novelty use only. We didn't tell you to put this in your body.
Oh, wow.
So anything that says novelty use only, toss it. That's my hot take.
Yeah,
it's
great advice.
It's not stuff that's good. So when we're talking about like safe materials, like anything that says that it is like real skin, or anything that's jelly, any package that somebody opens and it smells like a fresh shower curtain, like really plasticky. We're talking about anything that's like a silicone blend, jelly rubber, PVC, vinyl, VPR, TPE, elastomer, or other rubbery plastics. All of those are toxic and bad. All of those should get tossed. Or if somebody has a toy that they like, that they want to use, they should put a condom on top of it if they're inserting it into their body.
Wow.
Because sometimes these materials can leak toxic stuff into somebody's body, right? So that's why a barrier method could be particularly important. So if we're talking about safe materials, we want something that's body safe, that's not going to leak toxic materials, and something that is non-porous. So if something is porous, we can think about it like a tampon, for example, right? Tampon's made out of cotton. Cotton has a lot of little grooves in it that like bacteria can hang out. That's why it's not recommended for somebody to wear a tampon overnight, because that provides more time for the bacteria to multiply. That can get somebody sick. Similarly, if there's little grooves and areas in sex toys or sexual aids where like bacteria can multiply, that can lead to illness or an infection. So like 100% silicone, not a silicone blend, 100% ideally medical grade silicone is a great thing for a toy to be made of. Hard plastic, stainless steel, aluminum, and break resistant glass are all good. People are often shocked by the glass thing, but glass, especially if it's break resistant.
Ouch.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like
horrifying.
We're talking about full whole glass. We're not talking about hollow glass. We're not talking about a glass bottle. Okay.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially because like when you're shopping around for sex toys and they say like second skin, like that's like marketed to you as like this is the best of the best. It's going to feel the best. But especially if you think about it, like within the vaginal canal, there's heat. And so it's going to heat that up, which will heat up the material and then cause that material to like leak. I mean, think about a tea bag, right? Like it takes heat in order for the tea to release there. It's like tea. I don't know.
Same with plastic.
So same with plastic, same with like all of these things. And so when you insert something into your body, you're heating it up and causing it to release it. I mean, that's why for me personally, I started using like organic tampons or no tampons at all, because when you heat up the tampon in your body, it's releasing the bleach that bleached the cotton, you know? And so it's yeah.
But I love that because I think it's something that we do not talk about nearly enough with Sapphic folks.
It's really important to think about the material that you use.
Yeah.
What about like lube?
Yeah. So when it comes to lube, lube is can be so helpful, right? I want to say in particular, like sometimes people feel sexually broken if they do not produce a lot of vaginal lubrication. And I just want to say that's something that changes throughout somebody's lifetime, especially if somebody starts going through perimenopause or menopause. Like that's going to change and
certain
shift.
Medications.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the amount of vaginal lubrication somebody is producing does not necessarily indicate how turned on they are, how much they're enjoying something, right? So lube is great. It's always a great thing. Lube keeps everything all slippery and slidey. It lowers the risk that condoms and other barrier methods are going to break, and it also can make them feel better to wear. But they're sold at a lot of the same places that condoms are sold. 3 of the main types are water-based, oil-based, and silicone-based. Do y'all want to guess which of those can't be used with a latex condom?
I would have no idea.
Oh, wait, I want to guess. I also have no idea. But okay, what are the options again? The water, silicone,
and
oil.
Yeah.
Is it water?
It's oil-based.
It's oil.
Actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oil-based, when I'm talking about oil-based lubes, kind of sometimes what I'm talking about is coconut oil, massage oil, like vegetable oil, anything like that. Vaseline, moisturizers, right? All of those things can potentially break a latex condom. So if somebody's using a condom with their penetrative sex toys, which is a great idea because somebody can change the condom between bodies to lower the risk of infection being shared between people, it's recommended that somebody use water or silicone-based. The other thing to know about silicone-based lube is that if somebody has a low-grade silicone toy, it can potentially damage the toy. Silicone-based lube can potentially damage a silicone toy if it is not high enough grade. So that's also something to know. So water-based lube might be a great choice. The only negative about water-based lube is that it is water-based, so it can get absorbed into the body pretty easily. So sometimes people have to keep applying it, which is fine. But that's why people like silicone or oil-based sometimes over that, is because it can last a little longer, which can be particularly helpful for anal sex. Oh, we forgot to talk about the anus.
Oh, we did. The face you just made.
Because the anus doesn't provide its own lubrication. So, it's helpful.
We can talk about the anus right now if you want.
I would love to talk
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Can we talk about the anus? We should talk about the anus. Okay. If you have a plushie, do you have a plushie?
I don't
God damn it. Oh my God, Joan.
Victor needs a buddy.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Ojoy Sex Toy for having, this is where this diagram is from. So this is like two people's bodies are facing this way. And this is the anus is the name for the outside. A sphincter on the outside. Y'all know what a sphincter is?
We play Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I was going to say Baldur's Gate.
Oh, y'all play Baldur's Gate, so y'all know. Yeah. It's like a valve, right? It
Yeah.
helps to determine.
For people who don't play Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate is a very like fleshy anatomical game that you play. Dungeons and Dragons, but in the beginning the doors are sphincters. It's very
You're like an
interesting.
alien body ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Wow, that's so fun. So put in a GIF of that here. So anyway, so the sphincter, there are two of them, and people often aren't aware of this. So there's one on the outside, that's the anus. There's also one a little bit on the inside, usually a few inches in, 4 to 5 inches or so, that is not consciously controlled. So the anus, the sphincter on the outside, can be consciously controlled. Somebody can like think about their anus and be like, okay, open, relax, or close tight, right? The inner one is not consciously controlled. So if somebody's trying to have penetrative anal sex in some way, oftentimes people will have trouble getting past that second sphincter because their body isn't relaxed. So it takes like a lot of full body relaxation, going very slow, using a lot of lube for somebody to feel comfortable with enough for the sphincter to relax enough so that somebody can have penetrative sex past that second sphincter. So I just want to make that super clear. That's something a lot of people don't know.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Great. Okay, that's the anus.
As you watch us actively process.
I know. I'm like, whoa, crazy.
Wow. So with that, then you have on like the notes is flare-based anal toys.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, oh my God. Okay. So, something needs to have a flare base to go inside the anus. So, what do y'all think that means?
That like the
flared jeans.
Yeah. That the outside of it is like wider and then it gets thinner. Like it's like a flare.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all got it. Yeah, so if something has a flared base, that means like the diameter of the part that's going to be inserted is at least, oh wow, this is not, the way I drew this was not, it was a little over the top, but this needs to be at least 2 times wider than the part that's going inside the body. Otherwise, the anus will eat it. The anus will eat it. It will get stuck inside of the anus.
And somebody were going to the ER.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes, correct. So nothing should be inserted inside the body that isn't supposed to be there, especially if it doesn't have a flare base.
And so with anal toys, is it the same kind of notes about like it needs to be silicone and medical grade silicone, glass or whatever? Yeah. Is it the same thing for that too?
Totally. And then an additional thing to consider might be like using condoms. We already talked about that, but using condoms on anal toys can be particularly helpful, especially if somebody wants to go from the anus to potentially like a vaginal canal or the mouth, right? Because if somebody uses a condom on it, when it's inside the anus, they can remove the condom. And then there's all that fecal matter that potentially could be on there is going to be gone. The other thing to consider is also cleaning. Like sometimes certain toys, particularly the materials that we've talked about, like stainless steel, aluminum, break-resistant glass, like many of those things can be boiled, which also provides a level of cleanliness between sexual interactions that people might prefer. Just something to consider.
That's really cool. I always get afraid to boil, even though it's like, you can totally boil this. I'm like, it's going to explode or melt or something. Yeah. But yeah, silicone grade tools, you can absolutely do that.
Are there like any special cleaners people need to be thinking about, or like soaps or anything?
Yeah. No. So the answer is no. They do sell, like at sex shops, and there are like certain sprays that people can use to, let's say, for example, somebody is in a situation where they don't have access to a sink that is private, right? Maybe they only have public sinks, so they do not want to wash their sex toys in this public sink, right? Like a sex toy cleaner where somebody can spritz and like wipe it off with a towel, like that might be a better choice for them, but it's not necessary, in order to keep a sex toy safe and healthy. Somebody can just use like gentle soap and water.
Oh, okay.
And oh my God, that's also true about the vaginal canal. I think that's so important.
Oh yeah, talk about that.
Nobody should ever use any kind of soap inside of the vagina or inside of the anus, for that matter. I mean, it's okay. Like, to be clear, like our bodies have evolved so that like when we were hanging out on, in a field or whatever and didn't have access to soap, we would still be okay and healthy, right? These parts of our bodies on the inside take care of themselves. So nobody has to use soap or like douche on the inside. Douching is actually really, really bad for the vagina. So none of that is necessary.
Why is it bad?
Because, so what a douche is if somebody can just go to Target and buy one, right? It's like, it's a bag sometimes, or maybe a hard plastic bottle, and then on the end is like a nozzle, and somebody inserts that into the vagina and then can use the oftentimes fragranced soapy water to like clean out, quote unquote, the vaginal canal. But the reality is what that's doing is it's hurting the natural flora, the yeast that's in there. The body takes care of itself. That's what vaginal discharge is, right? Is the vagina keeping itself clean and healthy on its own terms. There is a level of yeast in there that it needs for its own health. If something goes in there like soap that disrupts that yeast balance, it can cause an infection, like a yeast infection, which is not ideal.
Yeah, like your body is constantly discharging and therefore like cleaning and detoxing itself. And so you should never like clean anything out.
Yeah, like soap in between, gentle soap in between the labia on the outside, that's fine, but not soap on the inside.
Yeah. I was always told that your body is like a self-cleaning oven.
Yes.
And to think about it that way. And yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, exactly that.
Wow.
I'm curious about, so specifically in sex that involves a vulva, there are dental dams, and I'm curious your take on those.
This is my birth control box. I have it because I'm teaching a birth control class tomorrow.
Amazing.
Dental dams can come in packages that look like this. If you're listening and not looking, it's like a square bag, thin bag. They're flavored because they're meant for oral sex. It's like mouth sex, right? Somebody takes it out of the package. It can look like this. It's a thin sheet, like a thin rectangle of latex. This one's a little pinky and it smells like strawberries.
Use it on Victor.
Oh my gosh, perfect. So what somebody can do is they can put some lube on the skin to help it feel better to wear, and then they can just put this down here. This prevents sexually transmitted infections. Oral sex has less of a chance of sexually transmitted infection than any kind of penetrative sex, but it is certainly not zero, right? So this helps.
Because I think that's a myth.
Yes.
Is that like Sapphic sex, AFAB sex isn't like you can't transfer any sort of STI, but you can.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Anytime any kind of fluids are being shared between people, like vaginal fluids or like genital fluids, that's possible. And then also when like genitals, there's genital to genital touching or mouth to mouth touching, there's a possibility of STIs, sexually transmitted infections. So this is one way, but we know that not everybody has a body like this. Also, this can be used on the anus for a barrier during like mouth to anus sex.
And you just lay it over top.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. But I also want to highlight that not everybody has a body that looks like that. So sometimes people who are transmasculine, so have been taking a testosterone and have a clitoris. Sometimes what is helpful and feels empowering is to have a condom that can go over the enlarged clitoris. So what somebody can do is they can take a latex glove.
If you're watching on YouTube, like we're gonna watch them cut the glove right now.
Yeah, so I got a latex glove. I'm cutting off all of the fingers, but I'm leaving the thumb, and then I'm cutting down the side that's opposite of the thumb, so I'm leaving the thumb in place. That's going to turn into our new condom. So it looks like that.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay, and then this is obviously not an enlarged clitoris.
It's not an enlarged clitoris, but it would go like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so
wait, can we turn it inside? That's so cool.
Wow.
It's a little silly. I feel like on Victor, but I love. Yeah, and then people can do similar things with gloves and with condoms, can cut condoms to turn them into dental dams as well. Because sometimes they can be hard to find, but they are usually in sex shops. Wow. And at your local Planned Parenthood.
There we go. There we go. Incredible. This has been such an informative episode. Thank you so much for listening. We've got 2 questions for you. The first one, to wrap it up, is what is one thing you wish every single queer and Sapphic person knew about their body and their sexual health?
This is such a... Honestly, I wish every Sapphic person could listen to this entire episode.
There we go. I was going to say yes.
Agree. Send this to your friends. Like, spread the word.
I really think, ultimately, like, bottom line, like, truly, I want everybody to know that they are good, they are lovable, they're valid, that, like, the things that make your body different are what makes... like should always be celebrated. There's such a pressure on everybody, but especially on people who are socialized and raised as women, to have a body that looks a certain way, and it does not have to look that way to be worthy of love and to be worthy of sex, straight up. I also want to highlight too, like, people sometimes get scared that their vagina is going to smell a certain way or taste a certain way, and mainstream pornography really makes it seem like people should have odorless, colorless, like totally benign looking genitals. The reality is that, like, genitals are like bodies, and that they're going to sweat and they're going to have maybe a little bit of a natural smell, and that's fine, right? And that's, dare I say, beautiful, you know? Like, I really want to celebrate that part of self-love and self-care could be especially hard for gender expansive people and transgender people. And I just want to highlight that anything that person can do to help them feel more in touch with their body, especially in a sexual situation, disclosing to a partner, well, disclosing makes it seem medical, sharing with a partner, like, what words somebody prefers to use for their different body parts, like for their chest, for, like, do they prefer to use the term chest, pecs, breasts? Does somebody like would rather, instead of talking about their vagina like as a vagina, talking about it like a front hole, right? Or referring to their clitoris as their dick, right? All of these terms are okay because sex is play, or it can be play, you know, and it's an opportunity for us to see what feels good to us in a way that is as judgment-free as we can make it, you know? So,
I love that. Like, your body is not plastic. Your body is not something that is, like, sold and scrutinized. Your body is here as a thing that makes you function. Yeah. It's something that you like deserve to enjoy being in. And I know
it deserves to be celebrated.
And it deserves to be celebrated. And I know that it's, like, easier said than done when you're constantly, like, bombarded with these, like, pornographic vulvas, or, like, how sex should sound, how sex should look, how my body looks is, like, I can't hunch over, I can't sit back, like, what do I do? But ultimately, I think, like, reprogramming and taking small steps, like, every time that you can, to reprogram the programming that you have in your brain is going to be so important, right? As much as you can be programmed into talking shit about yourself whenever you're in the bedroom, you can be reprogrammed to honoring and finding your own pleasure.
Yes.
And there's so many resources to help you do that. And Joan, just last thing for our listeners is, where can they go for more accurate, inclusive, sapphic, and trans, like, sexual health information?
This is a leading question.
Yeah.
Well, I work for Planned Parenthood. The Planned Parenthood website has really, really wonderful information. I do want to give a disclaimer that a lot of the information on there is still gendered. So if people are looking for gender expansive and like more gender expansive, inclusive options for sex education, our website is not necessarily the best place, but it is all accurate and medically informed. I will say, if somebody's in Austin, I don't know. Most people aren't in Austin, I'm assuming. But if people are in Austin, I teach sex ed every month at Out Wellness. Shout out Sid, who's also on your podcast.
Yes, we had an episode called How to Love Your Body Again with Sid Young, and also an amazing, incredible episode. And also shout out Wellness for just being like a safe, just like extremely beautiful place for trans and gender queer individuals, and for having you.
Yeah.
Are the classes free?
The classes are free. Also, if anybody is interested in doing like any kind of sex ed in Greater Texas, so that's basically all of Texas minus the Rio Grande Valley, so like El Paso, Houston, Dallas, Waco. Did I already say Austin? Austin, obviously. Lubbock. Like, we have educators who are trained to do inclusive, medically accurate sex education, and that can be like just a group of 3 people or a group of like 15 people to 30 people, right? So this is not something that we have to wait for our community organizations to put on for us. This is something that we can put on for ourselves, and that is also a free service.
Yeah.
So if you're not in Texas, there are many Planned Parenthoods across the nation that also offer this service. So just something to shout out is that, like, you can talk to an educator.
Education is out there. It's not something like super mystical. Yeah. And like,
can I name drop 3 other orgs in Austin?
Yes, please. I would be honored if you would.
Also in Austin, we have Vivint Health.
Yes.
We have Ashwell.
Yes.
And we have the Kind Clinic.
Absolutely.
All 3 spots, incredibly queer friendly, incredibly catered towards like POC community, houseless communities as well. So those are also 3 organizations you can go to as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joan. Like, honestly, this has been so fun. We know this is a longer episode, so we appreciate all of your time put into this, and like all of the resources and the props, and Victor.
Yep, Victor.
That you brought. Like, literally incredible. So thank you so much for coming. And yeah.
My pleasure. It's my dream job. I'm lucky I get to do this, and I'm especially lucky when I get to do it with people who care as much as I do, frankly. So thanks for making the space.
Yes, of course.
Thanks for being here.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this episode. We hope that you learned at least 15 billion different things like we did, at least. If you would love to support our show for free, you can rate the show. I'm assuming, and I'm hoping that a lot of you are on YouTube right now, so you can go ahead and like the episode. You can also go on to our channel and subscribe to the channel. Super helpful, just for our reach. You can leave a comment. You can go on our Instagram and like give us a follow there as well. We also have like a coffee. You can buy us a coffee. If you buy us a coffee and you specifically say, I want to send this to Joan, we'll send Joan a Venmo. And so there's ways to like financially support the show as well. And we really appreciate all of you, and just make sure, like, after this episode, just take a deep breath and, like, you know, just like know that everybody is just like so worth it, and the ways that we were trained are not necessarily true. And I'm just so like proud of the time that you took to listen to this episode, so that you can break away from all of these expectations that the world puts on us: cisnormativity, heteronormativity, like sex performance, and the time that you took to relearn what is true for you. And so I wish you a very happy, healthy, and pleasurable sex experience going forward.
Hell yeah.
Yay, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in.
Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media,
and share episodes with your friends.
See you next time.